If you have your Bibles, turn to John chapter 3. John chapter 3. This is a very well known chapter, but being well known, certainly John 3:16 is really well known, right? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I love 17. I think that we should always kind of include it. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Very important verses, aren't they? Maybe the first verses you memorized as a believer. I think that is the verse that I memorized first. For God so loved the world, right? We've talked this week about the life of the believer, the picture of the believer, the picture of the minister. And I thought, what if my picture isn't what it needs to be? How do I improve the focus or the background of that picture? How do I make that picture better? You know, if I look at my life and I think, wow, I'm pretty self-centered. I'm really not a slave to anything but myself. What if I'm not a very good steward? I don't even think of the things of God. I don't even think of God's gifts. I don't think of the word. I don't think of the gospel. I don't think of the church. Man, I'm not a spectacle because I'm not doing nothing for the Lord. People don't even know I'm a Christian. And I'm certainly not a loving father. What do I do? John chapter 3 verse 30 has it's a very interesting verse. I hear the verse a lot. I even hear it preached on, and when I hear it preached on, I always hear it backwards. I don't think it can be backwards. Let's read it. Let's read it the way it is. If things aren't where I want them to be in my life right now, what can I do? Well, look at verse 30. John 3:30. He must increase. Jesus must increase in my life. Now, I always hear, I must decrease, and then he's going to increase. I don't think it's ever going to happen that way. I don't think that this is the order in the scriptures by mistake. I do not believe I really have the ability within myself to do a lot of decreasing. But as he increases, then something beautiful does happen in my life. I decrease. So, let's ask the question today, how can Jesus increase in my life? I think that would be a good question simply to ask. And what can I be doing to make Jesus increase? I think of way back in I think there's some great examples. One of the great ones, I think, is in the Old Testament. It's like one verse in the Old Testament. If you want to flip back to Genesis chapter 5, it's the genealogy. Genesis chapter 5. And just one little verse, verse 24, it's always amazed me. We don't know much about him, but what we read about him is very beautiful. Verse 24, Genesis 5, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. What a beautiful statement concerning a life. He must increase. How would He increase in your life and mine? I think something very simple. That I would choose every day to follow Enoch's example. That I would walk with God. Could I make a decision today, you know what, I am going to walk with God? I think there have been times that I've walked with my wife. Recently, just during this time, we had a chance, and you kind of aren't doing a lot of the things that you normally do. And we said, you know what, let's go for a walk. And we walked together. Now, when we walked together, we could hold hands. And there's intimacy there, isn't there? There's touch there. When we walked, we could look at each other, and again, there's connection there. Again, speaking a little bit of intimacy. Another thing, we could walk together and we could converse. Again, communication and intimacy. How often in my life I've walked alone. I go through my day alone. I go through my day relying upon what I'm thinking, what I'm kind of able to do. And I'm thinking, isn't it wonderful to walk with someone? Again, just that example of walking with my wife. What an encouragement that was that day. Could we make a decision that, every day I can learn from Enoch's example? Enoch walked not alone, he walked with God. You and I can choose to walk with God. As we walk with God, we can converse with Him. We can commune with Him. We can be aware with Him. We can be in, isn't it nice not to be alone, but to be in another's presence? I think that to be in God's presence is one of the most beautiful things that you and I can do. Enoch walked with God. Would you choose to walk with God today? Some of the things we might be questioning, how does this occur? How does that occur? How do I become? It's not so much of me trying to change and to be. No, it's me being in communion with Jesus, and then He increases in my life as He increases. Naturally supernatural, right? I decrease. More of Him, less of me. Might He increase in your life and in my life today. God bless you. Make Jesus the priority of your day today. Walk throughout the day aware and in His presence. Your life will change. Your life will change. God bless you. Be filled with the love, peace, and joy of Jesus today. We love you.